Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. You're welcome to day two of The Woman Called You Do Over January, where we're taking 31 days to declutter and deconstruct our minds. I'm not just saying the mind, our minds in order to gain clarity. For those of you who will be joining us for the first time, I actually chose to do it also on my profile because most people who are not on the platform of The Woman Called You couldn't access the teaching of yesterday. We had day one yesterday where I kind of explained the need to declutter our minds or why we need to declutter our minds. So you can catch that on the Woman Called You platform, the page here on Facebook or the YouTube page. But I guess if you're watching here on Facebook, it's much more convenient if you catch us on the platform. So you can just do that by clicking on the Woman Called You, and because it's a private group, you'll you'll be given access to enter. So anyway, day two of 31 days to declutter and deconstruct our minds to gain clarity. Like I said to us yesterday, I said clutter is not just you know your space, your office, your living space, and all that. We actually encounter quite a lot of clutter in our everyday lives, in our minds, especially in our mind space. So it's not just about the things we see on the floor. You say here people are hoarders and all that. It's not just about that. For the purposes of this our 31 days is to let each and every one of us, sorry, the light is reflecting on my lenses, but I need it because this place is a little bit dark. So clutter that we're talking about for the next 31 days is not just clutter, we're going to deconstruct as well in order to gain clarity. Is anything that stands between you and the way you truly want to live, the life you truly want to live. It's a new year, and as is always the tradition with the new year, you see so many people making new year resolutions and all that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The problem or challenge we usually encounter is the follow through of it all. So hopefully by the end of the 31 days, we'll be able to have a grasp of how we can actually say, oh, we're making, like some people don't like to use the word resolutions. They talk about decisions. We are able to make the right decisions. We're able to do the right things that would help us go through the year and hopefully continue and commit to living that way. So today is part one. Remember, we have 31 days. We have quite a number of days. So it's not a sprint. It's not a marathon. It's not a relay. It's for each and every one of you who happens to come on. Take baby steps. Remember yesterday when I was talking, I talked about the philosopher John Locke. I remember a long time ago, I heard this from a woman I have a great deal of respect for, Mommy Ingo Organ, Apostle Ingo Organ. She's an educator and all that. And she once shared with me when I was going through a very rough patch in my life. She said, see, people will say you can't teach left hand in old age. It's not true. And she talked about this philosopher. I'm sure for those of you who did philosophy in school or avid readers would have come across this philosopher, John Locke. And she said, Nene, John Locke is famously known as saying that you can teach anybody, you know, anything at any point in their life, insofar as they are taught in steps. And that's the premise behind the need for us to learn to declutter, and deconstruct our minds in order to gain clarity. So, what we'll be doing today is a part one of the steps we need to take to declutter our minds. I'll first want anybody who is listening or would watch later consider what is called the principle of a brain dump. To do this, I'm not here to preach. Yes, although sometimes I might sound very, very preachy, but I'm not here to preach. So you just get a pen and a piece of paper. You know, you need to do it in steps. The first step, you must do what they call a brain dump. A brain dump. Brain, BRAINDUMP. I have banners here, so let me just put it up. I did it, yeah. And that's the preamble. The preamble is for you that is watching to do a brain dump. And what is that brain dump? When you take that piece of paper and the pen, begin to consciously write down, create a list of everything that is roaming in your mind. Mark, no censorship. Nobody's going to see it. You will see it alone. What are those things? It doesn't matter how terrifying or how perverse those thoughts are. What are the things that consistently go on in your mind? Those thoughts that keep on circulating. Write them down. I don't know who is there. Take a pen, a piece of paper, begin to write them down. And funny enough, those kind of thoughts, they're the kind of thoughts that will consistently go round and round in your brain. Meanwhile, it's going nowhere. Instead, you're probably feeling guilt, you're feeling fear, you're feeling this sense of, God, if any other person knows what I'm thinking of, will they think I'm still that perfect goody two shoes? Will they think life is still honky dory for me and things like that? And that's a fact. But see, my sister, because this is a woman called you, you need to do a brain dump now. So let's assume you have a pen and a piece of paper. Begin to do your brain dump. What are the things that roam about in your mind? In church, when there's a sermon, they'll call it wandering thoughts. Abby, begin to write them down. Is it that when you sit down, you're thinking, oh, is it as if my husband is cheating? Won't I have money to do this? Am I sure I can begin to write it? That's the brain dump. That's the preamble. Because today, for the steps to decluttering, we're going to be, um, focusing more on emotional steps, not practical steps. We'll come to practical steps as we proceed. So what we will do now is a brain dump. And like I said, if you've done that list, just hang on. You see why I said it's an emotional component, what we're doing today. Moving forward, it will get to a point, I think by the third day or so, or by the fourth day, which will be part three, because I'm going to take this session in parts. Like I said, 31 whole days. So it's not something we'll just run through like that, you know. So by the time we finish this emotional component of decluttering your mind, we'll go to the physical component. And that's when I'll begin to teach us things like the 4 Ds of productivity. And when we talk about the 4 Ds of productivity, we'll be talking about things like your vision boarding, things like vision boarding, things like learning to create a to-do list and all of that. But today we're just focusing on the emotional aspect. So the first thing you need to understand or learn as a step to decluttering your mind. Remember, I said you should do your brain dump. If you've done your brain dump, all those crazy thoughts that, in fact, you can't share with the next person, even if you have to go to a confessional, you can't even share it with the priest, those sort of thoughts. That's what constitutes your brain dump that I said you should list out. So, number one step, accept and take responsibility for your situation. Remember, you've written your brain dump. You've seen all those things that are going through your mind. You understand where you are. You're going through some kind of pain that is, in fact, everything about you is going awry. The first step, it seems very basic, and that's the truth. Is just say to yourself, see, you see these thoughts. I take responsibility. I accept responsibility. This thing they say about when you let somebody you're angry with somebody and all that, you're allowing the person to live rent free in your head. So imagine those thoughts you listed out on that your brain dump list. Accept responsibility for those thoughts. Accept responsibility for having those thoughts remain in your consciousness. Accept responsibility. No matter how bad it is, accept responsibility. Don't try to pass the buck to someone else as most of us would. I know there was a time in my life, every time I'll pass the buck to my husband, it's because he did this. That's why I acted this way. It's because he did that. That's why I acted this way. But I had to get to a point that I said, look, I can't continue this way. It can only affect you because you choose to let it affect you. So, girl, today just remember that brain dump, write it, that list, look at it, see all the whole load of Bogotin Boda is on that list and just say, look, I accept responsibility for this. So when you accept responsibility for it, what next? What next? Are you going to begin to have a pity party? If that's what you would usually do, because I used to do that, the time I used to do that. You must rise up from that place of having a pity party, because that's the first step. When you accept and you take responsibility for that situation, you move on to the next thing. I've listed it out so it's easier for me to run through. Be kind to yourself. Yes, nobody you killed Jesus. Like I always say, even those people who killed him, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So you just need to be kind to yourself. It's happened, you've allowed this thought to be resident in your mind for too long. But today you're making a commitment after you've looked at your brain dump list. You're making a commitment that, look, I've worried about this thing so much. I've not been able to make a change. I've not seen any foreseeable evidence of a change in the future. So I'll be kind to myself. So it's happened, it's happened. I can't get what I sincerely desire, but I have things I need to be thankful for. And when you're kind to yourself, you begin to, you will no longer sweat the small stuff, like I always tell people. You'll begin to appreciate yourself the more. You'll begin to, pat yourself on the back for the little wins. When you're kind to yourself, you appreciate little wins. Somebody bought a very, very glamorous thing and all that. You're content with the little that you've gotten. So all of this might seem pedestrian, but I tell you, if you begin to, the thing about it is we worry too much about things we can't deal with. If we begin to break down things, that's where the deconstruction comes in. You begin to break down issues, situations into elements. And by so doing, you are kind to yourself. You're saying, well, I've done my best with what I have. So if you understand that the need to be kind to yourself, if you understand the fact that I didn't have to cheat to do this, I got this by dint of hard work, you to appreciate yourself. And once you begin to appreciate yourself, remember what I said yesterday, why we need to declutter. It improves your productivity. I have a young lady, who had a constraint for something. She was in business. And I think after she learned to understand that, look, the situation wasn't going to change. She was still going to be in the space she had. She just had to change the way she viewed her situation. And by the end of the year, to the glory of God, she has a good tale to tell. So I'm saying to somebody, the second step of decluttering your mind, hey girl, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. One of the things that make us become self-deprecating is social media. You know, like a couple of weeks ago, I posted a reel where a lady was saying, she posted this very, very glamorous car. I think it was a G-Wagon. My kids tell me it's not a G-Wagon, it's something, something. Is it a Brabus or something like that? Yeah. And she said, oh, she's been selling skincare, you know, and by 24, she was able to get this. And I saw the responses, on her reel, and I was amazed. I could see some people already self-deprecating. God, where are you? All those things. And when you do that, you can't be kind to yourself. You begin to clutter your thoughts with all kinds of things. And that's what push people over the edge. So that's number two. Then number three, like I said, I'm listing it so I can just quickly go through it. Number three, give yourself permission to step out of the prison of guilt, worry, and fears. Even the Bible tells us, makes us understand that the battle is in the mind. It's okay. Remember, I said in the first step, accept and take responsibility. Accepting and taking responsibility doesn't mean beating up yourself. It's saying, well, it happened. The Bible tells us that when the righteous falls, he rises, he falls. Yes, you fell, but you rise. You don't let that situation take permanent residence in your mind. And like I was discussing with a very, very good friend today, I said, see, we need to understand how to distinguish between the spirit and the mind. The mind is what drives us. Your spirit is your spirit. If your spirit is with God, is with God. But he has said, he has given to us what pertains to life and godliness. So even if you are feeling very godly, your spirit is in tune with God, but yet you feel guilt, yet you feel worry, yet you feel fears, your mind is cluttered. So you need to give yourself permission today. Remember the brain dump. Whatever you wrote down are the things you worry about. Oh, it's January. Where am I going to pay? When am I going to get money for school fees for? And you begin to worry. You begin to do this. It will not give you the opportunity to think constructively of the options that are available to you. When we come to a part of deconstruction, I'll throw light on that aspect of how to think constructively. Because some people think thinking constructively is to, actively, it's as if I'm thinking. You can think constructively sometimes by just being quiet. If you know the story about they talk about the grass. I don't know if most of you know about that, this thing. It's a well-known man who said that. I don't have his name right now. Where he said, you see the grass, in stillness, the grass grows. So sometimes to declutter your mind, to give yourself permission to step out of the prison of guilt, worry, and fears, you just need to be still. Sometimes when you take time out and you think and you meditate, you see that that thing you worried about so much was not really worth the worry. I'm sure some of you would bear me witness that some things you worried about like 2 years ago, when you look back at them now, you're like, because at that point, it's as if everything will give. In fact, the world is going to come to an end. But you look back now and it's like, the world did not end. So when you give yourself permission to begin to step out of the prison of guilt, worry, fears, you've taken a step, another step towards decluttering your mind. So the next one is accept you can't control the narrative. See, this one is a major issue most of us have to deal with. And I tell you, that's the truth. And sad as it sounds, it's one of those things that if we do not deal with it, if we do not, they say go for the jugular on that matter, we might find out that we will spend a lot of time going around in circles. I mean, things are not going well for you the way they should, but you still seem to be having this sense of, I'm in control. I'm in control. Everything around you is imploding. Everything around you is falling apart. I mean, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. You don't need to act as if you have control of the situation. You have to let go of control. Let go of control. I'll speak some more about it when I come to the point of vulnerability. You just have to let go of control. My daughter will say, it is what it is. Let go of control. You can't, because most times you are so much in control when you want to control the narrative as far as it affects the next person. You want to control the narrative. You want to feel you have a say on that matter. And before you know it, stress is building up. Stress is building up. Worry is building up. When you seem to lose control, guilt starts piling up. Can a woman out there just accept that, look, if anything is going the way it's going, having done the needful, you don't have control over it. Even a pregnant woman doesn't have control of the baby in her womb. That is a part of her, an integral part of her. How much more you trying so hard to control the parameters around you? So I'm saying today, just accept you can't control the narrative of your life or anybody's life. Well, to an extent, you can control the narrative of your life, but you can't control the narrative as far as it affects other people. So if you understand this, you're a step further decluttering your mind. It is one problem off If you saw the um let me see if I can quickly get it. The this thing I put, let me it will cover me, but not the let's just have a quick look at it. You see, that's the mind there. There are books on the shelf. Some of the books are haphazard and all that. You know, when you see shelves on the library, they're all supposed to be in correct order. But you see, it's all haphazard. You can imagine that that person who is cleaning it didn't necessarily stack the books that way. Imagine it's in a house. You have everybody coming to use the library and everything, or using the bookshelf and returning it, keeping it haphazard and all of that. So if you choose to always, you think you need to arrange the books, they need to be, you would wear out, you will suffer burnout. So assuming this head of this library or this bookshelf is mine or yours, I bet if you look on the bookshelf, you will see that not everything on the bookshelf are books. So what do? You just simply all those things that you think are not important for the bookshelf. As far as I'm concerned, since what I can control is that space, I'll begin to chalk them out. So, as far as I cannot control what people put there, but I can control what I allow to stay on my bookshelf. And that's the bookshelf of my mind. So, I can't control the narrative. I can't control the narrative, but I'll let go. And by letting go, I'll just simply pluck those things that I think are not of importance and chuck them out. So, the next point now, like I want it to always be short. I want to try as much as possible to stay within 30 minutes each day and not should pass that. The next one now is to create a picture of what is important for you. It's not about creating a picture of what is important for you by what you surround yourself with or the physical attributes of your life. No. And that is why I said I'll take this in further detail when I'm discussing the 4 Ds of productivity, because in creating a picture of what's important to you, there's a component of learning how to do your vision boarding and all of that. So then you actually put on paper before you remember we did at the beginning the brain dump, which was physically listing out the things that are resident in your head as we speak. Then we'll now get to the 4 Ds of productivity, and one of the 4 Ds of productivity will discuss the vision boarding. But I just want to quickly just say, in creating a picture of what is important for you, you should know what you would accept. You should know what will be there's a breaking point for you. You should know and understand what your breaking point is. You should know and understand what you will accept into your mental space. You should also know and understand what it is you want at any time. See, it might seem as if it's easy to say. I can say it like this easily now because I learned how to deal and handle with that situation. I mean, there was a time I was living practically with pressure headaches because I didn't know how to say no. I would always want to say yes to please. And not as in being a psychopath, because nobody might know that, oh, I said yes, but I will feel there was a need for me to say yes in order to receive validation of some sort and all that. But I'm saying, see, if you continue that way, you would be pleasing everybody to your own detriment. And when you do that, you will be stressed out. You know how it is where you say, oh, everybody around you is happy, but you are not happy. It's all because you haven't created a picture of what is important to you and move towards attaining the reality of what it is you have painted. So that's why they keep on, insisting on women learning to come up or draw vision boards, because with your vision board, my dear, I go check them. Some people say you don't. It's not good to be so academic about the way you approach your life. But I tell you, even the Word of God says, write the vision plainly upon a tablet, that whoever sees it will run with it. So one of the things you need to do when you're creating a picture of what is important to you, you have a tablet. that's your electronic tablet. You have pen and paper. You doodle. Learn to doodle. These days, many people don't doodle. They don't write. I mean, in those days, you used to have this at a glance diary, something like a chart on your table. You see a lot of doodling. So let's go back to doodling. Create what is important for you. If you perchance watch this, you've done your brain dump at the beginning. Write down what is important to you. That thing they say, don't write down your plans, is a lie. When you write down your plans, you will know what is not part of your plan and you will not take it. If not, if you're without a plan, you're without a picture, everybody will come and dump on you. And this will be an increased stressor for you. And your mind will be more cluttered. So we're going to go quickly to the next one. Focus on your strengths. I tell you, the thing about most people is there's this new philosophy of when they ask you if you can do something, just say yes. When they ask you, can you, okay, I catch and they now ask you, can you do uh, 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 um Taiwanese food or cuisine or something, and you say because the motivational speakers have said anytime they come to you for business, they say, can you do it? Just say yes. That is not focusing on your strength. Don't get me wrong. I watched this reel some time ago where they gave and honestly, that's the full meaning. That's the full text of that saying when they say jack of all trades, master of none. It doesn't stop at master of none. It says jack of all trades, master of none, but better than the master of one. Yes, but this is not what I'm talking about here. When you focus on your strengths, you'll see that you're able to hone in your expertise, your skill. But when you are doing a lot of things, like me, I have a flair for a lot of things, a flair for a lot of things. I can choose to do this, choose to do that, choose to do that. But you see, like I say, as I choose my battles wisely, so I choose how I want my lifestyle to be. Because if I decide to do everything, I seriously would, it's not necessarily default, but I wouldn't get the prerequisite satisfaction that I will get from just doing something that truly gives me pleasure. So when you focus on your strengths, my sister, you begin to channel your energy. That's why you see all the great sportsmen of the world. It's not as if Michael Phelps that swims cannot do something else. It's not as if, like yesterday, I was watching a movie with LeBron James in it. What's it called again? Trainwreck. It was a comedy on Netflix. And I was looking at him. I said, even in the movie, he acted himself as LeBron James, and then it was much more realistic. Because I was like, when I first saw him, is LeBron James now trying to be an actor or something? Till I saw that it his personality and his person just fused into the movie because the one of the protagonists in the movie was a sports doctor, so it just fused. So I said, okay, he was still playing himself as a basketballer in that movie. And it made sense. So the thing about focusing on your strengths, you see, it helps to declutter your mind. You would not want to be like you see now. We have there's this guy who is trending, this musician guy, and all of a sudden everybody wants to sound like him. And I had to go to social media and I saw that this guy has been singing for long. He just didn't start, you know. So the thing is, whatever it is you're doing, choose wisely. It will help to declutter your mind, my sister. If it's makeup you are doing, do the best, be the best. Yes, you can have other interests. But by the time you start taking on more than you can chew, your mind will be cluttered. So, one of the things you need to do is focus on your strengths. And by doing that, you will channel your energy. The next one, because I'm soon going to end, like I said, I've even overshot my time limit of 30 minutes. Embrace your vulnerability. I remember there's this woman I used to know back then, a regional pastor's wife back then in Port Harcourt. And she would say, All these women that will be going through, and you'll be pretending that, see, if she has a boil in her nether regions, she will talk about it and she will show somebody, and then help will come. You see, one of the reasons for embracing your vulnerability is the fact that you begin to see who you truly are in the mirror, and you're not under pressure anymore. It's just like when you keep on faking it, a time comes that you get so, you're overwhelmed, you're tired because you can't keep up with the fakery. So embrace who you are. If you are weak, there's no shame in letting somebody know you are weak. It's not that I'm not saying you're going to stand on a hill and you know um inform the whole world and announce your vulnerability. That's not what I mean. Even in embracing your vulnerability, there's the aspect of being, intuitive to know what is the right thing, or where the right place and the right person to be vulnerable with. Not everybody can be bad. And that's where, in embracing your vulnerability, choose your circle wisely. It helps to declutter your mind. Choose your circle wisely. Have people, like somebody seeing me speak here will think, oh, this lady that has it all together. That's not true. I have people I talk to. I have people I go to and I say, see, I can't go on anymore. I need to, and it helps me. I'm a woman who would always speak about my faith, you know. So I am so big on embracing my vulnerability. And it has helped me. Remember when I started earlier, the last I said about 20 minutes ago or so, I said I one of the um signs that my mind was just cluttered. I used to have pressure headaches. I would sleep, wake up, and I'm still tired. I wasn't doing any physical activity per se, but a lot of stuff in my mind, running from pillar to post. But when I learned to embrace my vulnerability, I started sharing with people. And it's in sharing I got to learn. It will surprise you that I got to learn how to say no from somebody who I shared with, and took me through the process of understanding the fact that, look, Nene, you can't say yes to everybody. Saying no does not make you a bad person. Doing this, doing that. So I'm just saying that, for one of the ways we can actually declutter our minds is embracing our vulnerability. You're not good at something. By the time you talk about it, there's always someone who can come up with, something that will help you in that area. So I don't want to dwell on that much, because, like I said, we have 29 more days. So would go through this thoroughly. I mean, we're going to go through the different steps of decluttering. Tomorrow, we're going to go into the physical aspect. There's going to be the 4 Ds of productivity, like I said, that will help us, bring, like, add body and flesh to the issue of decluttering. So the next one, I don't know if you have watched this animated movie, Frozen. I'm sure, if for those of you who have watched it, will guess the next thing I'm going to say. And in Steps to Decluttering, let it go, Elsa, from the animated movie Frozen. See, one of the most important steps, and that's the last step I'm going to speak of today. We'll continue tomorrow, like I said. Wow, so sorry about that. I don't know, maybe I should not go live on this. Maybe I'll start doing it as a recording and I'll be premiering it because I just had a fluctuation with my router just there. So sorry about that, ladies. Yes. So the last one, like I was talking about Elsa, right? I said let it go. And the premise of this is this. You know, the other one I said let go of control. Yes. But the premise of this is this one. See, my sisters, if whatever it is that is on your mind, remember I talked about the brain dump when we started, which is a to-do list every woman should try to make in, the taking steps towards decluttering her mind. One of the things you need to do, and this is an emotional thing, I'm not talking about physical relations, no. If it doesn't serve your interest, let it go. That's the first clutter, major clutter that has to go. If it doesn't serve your interest, please let it go. Maybe eventually you might revisit it if it serves your interest, but if it doesn't serve your interest, it does not deserve a place on the shelf of your mind. It does not deserve a place on the shelf of your mind if it doesn't serve your interest. So don't be afraid to let it go. Don't be afraid to let it go. Remember, in letting that thought go, you are a step further to actually decluttering your mind. I know it is only after you have decluttered your mind. Because remember, even in the Bible, like I said, I would always make Bible references somehow. Remember in the Bible when we're told that when the evil spirit is sent out, cast out, exorcised out of a person who hitherto, had been possessed, he goes and that space has to be filled with the Holy Spirit, right? And if perhaps that doesn't happen, after some time, because there is no vacuum, even your mind that we're trying to declutter cannot remain in a vacuum. The mind we're trying to declutter cannot remain in the state of a vacuum. So remember that person, if you don't feel it, after some time, the evil spirit that has been exorcised, has gone out, will go and call his paddy men and they will come back in full force and possess that person. And in this case, the mind that had before this time been decluttered. So when we're talking about decluttering of the mind will be deconstructed and will now be constructed anew. So that's the path. Hopefully, we will be able to get to by the end of our 31 days. So from me to you is ciao, ciao. Have a nice evening, a nice morning, wherever you ultimately watch this from. And like I said, if you haven't watched the first one, that would give you like an understanding of what we're on about on the second day. Please, you can join the Woman Called You community on Facebook or watch this um broadcast on YouTube. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. God bless you. See you tomorrow.